Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always in our wind-stricken Deranged Cat studio is my fellow film watcher compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
Did some more thinking about local council elections.
And don't we all know it?
Yeah, and then it kind of hit a wall about it.
Don't we know it?
And so I tried to go around the wall, and didn't really work out yet. But in an attempt to get myself out of the funk, I went and watched the 2015 biographical dramedy about the US housing crisis of the mid-2000s, which led to the global financial crisis of the mid to late 2000s, The Big Short.
Good.
And it didn't work, but it was a good film.
Right.
And Steve Carell is in it, and he's actually more than tolerable.
Uh-huh. Yep. He can be. What else have you been up to?
I have started playing the game You Suck at Parking, and I do. I do suck at parking.
Wow. So, a game foretold the future.
Get cars to parking spots very, very quickly, while avoiding complications.
Right.
Complications may be unavoidable.
It is a 3D driving simulator, is it? Or are you top-down, or...?
It is in 3 dimensions, yes. But from a sort of half top-down view.
Right. That's not really testing your parking skills in a real-life scenario, then, is it?
No.
But it's still valid.
Yes.
As a game. Right.
And I think that's about it as far as things I have to talk about.
A jam-packed week it has been, then.
Oh, I filled out my ballots and have sealed them in their envelope.
Oh, no, we were going to compare the ballot papers.
I know what numbers mine were.
Because you used the randomometer to pick your numbers.
No. I know what numbers were in the top left of the ballot papers, which tells me where they were in the rotation. Thank you to Robson for providing the rotation.
Thanks, Robson. Yes. Speaking of Robson, we would like to observe a moment's silence for the passing of Angela Lansbury, who is in no way related to Robson. However, she was the aunt of a previous Australian Prime Minister's wife, or something weird like that. Angela Lansbury, who's been in lots and lots of things, and in fact is in 3 movies that are on the shelf. Can you name them, Thomas?
No.
Good. We've got Bedknobs and Broomsticks. We have The Pirates Penzance, the Broadway version, brought to screen quite effectively, and the voice of Mrs. Potts in the 1991 animated Beauty and the Beast. Tell us all this time.
Pick a key.
No, well, you see, by that stage her voice was sort of a bit flaky, and I was impersonating that. Tell us all this time.
Flaky or not,
See?
she could stick to a key.
Everyone's a critic. So, thank you, Angela Lansbury, for all you've done to the television and movie and stage.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I donated blood again. It was my 100th donation.
It was?
Yep, and there was big fanfare at the blood donor centre. I got a certificate, I got a little badge, which I was quite surprised about.
And I entirely expected.
As did I. But were you expecting the block of chocolate?
I was not.
Well, I got a block of chocolate as well.
And I didn't see it, because by the time I saw you afterwards, you'd already eaten it.
It was a small block of chocolate. And I hadn't eaten a lot that day, which is all terribly wrong. You are meant to have a good, decent meal prior to donating, and I'd eaten a bit. But, yes. So that happened. I had my photo taken, and it's on the board of high donor achievers or something. And everyone was most excited. Yes, and I went for a bit of a walk, took more photos, and have been posting them wherever I can, except for our Cellulose-free Facebook page.
Well,
where I'm sure that occasionally I have mentioned, I might pop one of those up. And maybe I will. He says again. Other than that, no, nothing much. Been watching Stargate, SG-1 and Atlantis, now that the younger ones are up to where those two shows overlapped when originally broadcast. So got to a double cliffhanger for both at the end of season 8 of SG-1 and the end of season 1 of Atlantis. Except that the end of season 8 really isn't a cliffhanger, because I think they were under the impression that that was going to be it for SG-1, and then they decided, no, let's do some more, for better or for worse. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We have more important things to talk about. We have a film to watch.
That we do.
Starring Peter Sellers. He's checking the back of the box. He's not convinced.
No, it's got Benny Hill in it. That's the one.
And it is a heist movie.
It is.
Somewhat like The Lady Killers, which had Peter Sellers in it. Today's movie has Michael Caine in it.
It does.
Now, here's a challenge for you, our dear listener. I want you to, in any access of medium of communicating with us, please take a guess at how many films we have on the shelf that feature Michael Caine, and name one of them other than the film we're watching today.
And if you know us particularly well, don't name that other one either.
No, don't name that one, because that one's obvious. You'd be a muppet to name that one.
You would.
Okay. What are we watching today?
We are watching The Italian Job.
The 1969 version. As opposed to the... Was it Mark Wahlberg?
The spiritual successor.
Yes.
With the same title.
Yes. We digress.
We do.
The Italian Job. Would you please tell our dear listener what The Italian Job is all about?
Charlie Croker is out of jail and on the make with an ingenious plan for the heist of the century. Aided and abetted by top criminal mastermind Mr. Bridger, Charlie sets off with an ace team of villains and three tongue under the teeth. Under the teeth, like this. Like this. Except not the whole time.
No, not the whole time, because that would sound silly. In fact, that's another speech impediment altogether.
It's like the opposite of what I have going on. Aided and abetted by top criminal mastermind Mr. Bridger, Charlie sets off with an ace team of villains and 3 very special minis to lift $4 million from under the noses of the Italian police. Now, I don't know why I had trouble with this last time, because...
I don't know either.
I think it's been mistranscribed.
No, it hasn't. And I suddenly realised, I looked when I brought it up on my movies app to check the running time, and it said it's 90% complete as far as the actual data that they like to have on a particular film. And I clicked on, okay, what's missing? And it said, the front and the back cover are a little fudgy, so can you improve that? And I thought, okay, when I get it out, I'll consider doing that. When I got it off the shelf, it looks entirely different. So the text that you read last week is the text off the back of another cover that's possibly linked to the same barcode, but not necessarily. This has a different plot synopsis on it, by the sounds of things.
It has a very slightly different plot synopsis, in that it has the word police.
They must have picked up the fact that this doesn't make sense. So, for all future podcasters, we will not cause this drama ever again.
And also does not have Turin or Torino. Either one.
They just say Italy, do they?
Just the Italian police.
There we go.
The trouble is, with the cops and the mafia on his tail, Charlie finds that grabbing the money is kids' stuff compared to getting away with it.
Excellent. I am actually looking forward to this. I have not warned Thomas, but Daniel is champing at the bit to watch this, so he's going to be coming in. And I've already put the tape... Sorry, I've already put the tape. That's going back a bit.
Was it rewound?
Yes, please rewind. I have put the DVD into the DVD player. We're all ready to hit the play button. We're going to watch it, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So we shall catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B.
But be careful what you say, because we're the Self-Preservation Society.
I'm still going to turn to side B.
Right, you're doomed then, you mongrel. So, what did you think? No, I'm going to have to ask that again, because every time I ask that, you go... and I end up having to edit it out. So, what did you think? Oh, and you foofed into you plosived as well that time. Gee.
I do enjoy the film.
Yeah.
But it is not without fault.
It is somewhat pockmarked with faults. Yes.
It takes a while to get where it's going.
Yep.
Doesn't spend very long there. And then its way out is a bunch of unconnected elements.
Yeah. I don't think I had fully appreciated exactly how much of just a slapstick comedy it was. I think every re-watching, I possibly re-register that. But after years of not watching it, I sort of remember the comedic elements are there, but recall it more as a drama heist type film. But
it's a comedy.
It is. It's of the time. It's not quite up there with the Carry On movies, but it gets very close in places where it's just plain silly, and you have the sped up bits, and you have Benny Hill. Yeah, that's possibly my biggest problem with it, is the Benny Hill, in quotes, air quotes, comedic element to it. But yeah, it's got its moments.
It's a series of slapstick moments that I think I enjoy, but I don't know hold together particularly well as a cohesive film.
No. Certainly the decisions that they made, the time they made it, I think were quite smart and clever, but probably a good 50 to 70% of it they wouldn't get away with as being smart or clever.
No.
These days. And I don't think that's even a case of that's because they were the first to do it. It's just that attitudes have changed, our expectations of timing, and I guess what's funny and what's not have changed. There were whole segments that, plot-wise, they wouldn't even bother with, I don't think. Which possibly brings us prematurely around to the fact that they made a... What do you call it?
Wikipedia calls it a remake.
A remake? Yeah. And from my recollection, I haven't seen it as many times as this, but my recollection is that they made some choices that, for a modern audience, completely made sense. And dropping of certain plot lines they completely got rid of.
Wikipedia calls it a remake, but I think it is more so an homage with some elements from the film.
Yeah. Including minis.
Mm.
I was surprised how much I struggled with it this time round.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, there are some really, really great bits in it, but held together with really flimsy bits that just pad out the movie. It's only 93 minutes long, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very short movie, and yet it does feel padded in places.
It feels padded in places. There's a bunch of connecting bits in the first half of the film.
Yeah.
And then the getaway is entirely disconnected bits.
Yeah, and there was the segment. One of the things that really bugs me about the Hobbit movie, the first one, is the numerous characters that they have to introduce that are only there because they're in the book, and so they got in trouble for leaving out characters before, so they put them in here and added extras and just stuffed the Hobbit full of characters.
Mm-hmm.
In this, there's a whole scene where everyone gets introduced around the table, and they really could have trimmed that down as well. That there really did. There wasn't a need ever for that many people.
No.
And possibly the only reason why they needed that many people was for the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a poor reason for spending a good 5 minutes of this 93-minute film introducing characters that are only there for a punchline.
I don't even know that the number of people in this heist crew remains consistent throughout the film.
No, it's quite bizarre. There are whole gaps of where I said that things were held, the good bits were held together with really poor bits. There were times where there are also good bits that were missing bits in between. I felt that really didn't explain. Okay, how did they get to... Where are they? And how did they get there?
We're doing this now. Okay.
Yeah, it really is, in places, a real muddled mess. And don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy this film, but dare I say, I don't think it's the classic that I've looked at it as, and everyone else does. It is just really, really weak in places. Is that a dangerous thing to say?
It's not unfair.
Again, had the 16-year-old in it who got most frustrated in places with it. Had the 19-year-old daughter come in and was quite enjoying it, and then it got... And I'd warned the 16-year-old that it is a product of 1969, and certain values and jokes are not terribly appropriate these days.
The first half hour, particularly.
Yeah, and my daughter came in after I'd given that warning, and I forgot to give the warning again, and then it got into some really uncomfortable territory, just icky territory. It's Benny Hill. And Benny Hill ickiness just has not aged well. And I don't think it's even a politically correct type of deal. It's just, it really wasn't right then. We shouldn't have been laughing about it then, and it just felt uncomfortably awkward now. It's just ick. So, yeah. So he could have cut that, and yeah, you could have trimmed this to a really smart 1 hour TV. Well, apart from the budget, they certainly made their way through a number of vehicles that would have contributed to a very high proportion of the budget of this film. But speaking of which, there were some scenes involving vehicles that were shot very, very well. The opening, where the Ferrari is driving through the mountains, the camera work in that, and the shots and the crispness of the colour, it looks absolutely beautiful. That beginning 5 minutes, and because it was the era of opening credits, introducing every man and his dog during the opening credits rather than the closing credits. It was quite a long segment, but because it was so beautiful to look at, you almost switch off from the fact that names are coming up on the screen, which is one of the reasons why they ended up moving credits to the end, I think. But beautiful, beautiful segment at the beginning, and other scenes with minis racing around the place. Very, very well shot in places, apart from the bits that weren't. I feel harsh today, but yeah, I think for the first, or maybe the second time, I think the last time I watched this, Wendy might have been around, and she left as well, and I felt a bit uncomfortable in the uncomfortable places, and also realised that a lot of the jokes are now very flat, and a lot of the scenes are quite flat. A lot of the acting is very flat as well. Michael Caine certainly went on to bigger and better things. Okay, I think I've suitably crucified myself with that segment. What else do you have to say?
And Daniel completely lost by the ending of the film.
Yes, see, I've been avoiding the ending because it's very much a British comedy film of the era ending. There are numerous British comedies of the time that ended in such a way, and that is ambiguous. and not ended.
This film is 53 years old now?
Yes, it is. It is. And we still have no ending. Do you have anything else you wish to? Because I've talked a lot. I keep on saying, so what did you think? And then you say something briefly, and then I go into a rambling monologue.
That does seem to be how things go.
It is.
Then I provide some input.
Yeah.
You vociferously deny my input.
Yeah, I do not.
Oh, yes you do. You're doing it right now.
I do not.
Oh, let's see what you're doing.
No, I don't.
Anyway.
Well, do you?
No, I
don't?
don't think I have anything else to say.
You don't.
Yeah.
The only other note that I wrote was when Charlie was watching the film of the master planner of this concept and idea, and he's basically having a conversation with this dead guy via the film. That was shot very well, and I quite enjoyed that.
It was shot well, but
yeah,
it took too long.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to, again, the pacing issues of lots of scenes were, for these days, too long. They would be trimmed so much tighter these days. So whether that's because our minds are expecting things to just romp along at a really fast pace, or it was slow then and is slow now, I don't know. I was only 1 when this came out, so I didn't see it then.
Music
Yes.
What music is there is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But when there isn't music, it's very profoundly not there.
Yeah, and I think probably a good 95% of the dialogue was re-recorded and sounds like it has been. So whether they recorded on set and then did re-recording of I don't know. There's just something strange about the levels of the dialogue that don't quite gel either, and that's made more apparent when there is no music happening.
There is a place for not having music.
Yeah.
It's not the entire film.
No. All right. Well, if you've got nothing...
I think that might genuinely be it now.
Okay. Well, let's move on then.
The following segment has no title. Please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times.
I think we might have something on all three of our major engagement platforms.
Yep.
And so we will start with Facebook.
Okay. Hi, Helen.
Yes, it is from Helen. Who says, I was going to point out the misspelling of jalapenos, but I see you have, sort of, done so already.
What do you mean, sort of? I well and truly did.
I have heard of the title of this film, but little else. I have no idea what file name you have given it. I will go with MUSRRD and expect to be wrong, but I am sitting comfortably at the top of the non-existent leaderboard, so I'll take the chance.
You're wrong.
I can't remember if anyone else guessed.
Someone did.
So, on YouTube, I'm assuming. Yes, so we'll get to that at some point. Yes, what three words is silly and useless, although I did have a bit of a misadventure with UTM coordinates the other week due to using the wrong base grid. Oops.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that Tasmania is moving like 6 meters every minute. So it's...
And Australia along with it.
Yeah, in the opposite direction, and yeah.
Should have known better, continues Helen. I was going to try to beat Dunkel's 6 comments, but decided that this was petty. And then in a second comment...
Well, I should also point out that Dunkel mentions it, I think, in a comment on... Or does Dunkel go back to mention... There was actually a 7th mystery comment that Dunkel made.
Yes, which Dunkel suspected might have got caught up in the spam filter, and which I checked and did not.
I reckon it was abducted by aliens. Yeah.
And then in the second comment, Helen says, and may we get a decent council out of the local government elections.
Oh, I doubt it.
It's going to be a mess.
It is.
We've had 3 people leave, and also compulsory voting has been introduced, which is going to introduce all sorts of wild card voting into the mix.
Yep.
So it could be an absolute mash.
Yep. All the people who didn't vote previously in council elections usually chose not to because they couldn't care less. Now that they're forced into voting...
They still will not care less.
Exactly. One could use that argument to suggest that we shouldn't have compulsory voting for our state or federal elections, but I think in those scenarios, because we've been doing it for so long, there is a little more thought. But maybe not.
Over on Discord, Entuosferatu.
Hello, Entuosferatu.
Says, no comment on this week's movie, but next week's movie, which is to say this one
that we just... Well, I predominantly bagged on, and Thomas reluctantly agreed with my... Yes.
Next week's movie, which is to say this week's movie, has something in common with 2 weeks ago's movie, which is to say 3 weeks ago's movie.
Yes.
My wife and I watched the remake and the original of The Italian Job back to back when the remake came out on DVD, and we watched the remake and the original of The Lady Killers the same way.
Well, we expect either huge nods of agreement as to our attitude towards the original Italian Job, or just an absolute shellacking. Whether that word is used the same way in your neck of the woods,
well,
we shall see.
Well, Nosferatu continues. I don't remember anything in particular about either, except I wonder how much the remake of The Italian Job was spurred by the quote-unquote new BMW Mini Cooper's release.
Yes, indeed.
And while I remember both Alec Guinness and Tom Hanks being in their version of The Lady Killers, their most memorable roles continue to be James Benson Mum in an Agatha Christie parody of some sort,
yes.
I think. Had a bunch of detectives over.
Uh-huh.
And Jimmy, There's No Crying in Baseball, Dugan, respectively, from a comedy about baseball, I think.
Yes.
I haven't seen either of the films being referred to here.
Oh, wasn't that actually A League of Their Own?
Yes.
Yes.
Which I still haven't seen.
Yes. Where it's during the war, I think. And so the women decide to play baseball instead. Is that right? Or am I just making that up?
I don't know. I have not seen
You've
the
got
film.
devices up.
And in response to the end of last week's podcast, Nosferatu also sent in a clip from LRR's Would You Rather British panel show style thing, The Panellists, in which they did something similar but with a different piece of music.
Yes, because at the blooper reel end of last week's episode, I put something that we did at the beginning before we actually started properly recording, where we did Bolero.
There was definitely Bolero somewhere in that recording session. Yes.
And I'm guessing that Loading Ready Run did a similar thing with another piece of music.
Yes, Mars, I think.
Yes, that's right, they did, yes.
At that time, in that episode, which I haven't watched in a while, and so can't remember the context for.
Well, see, I fully translated when I finally got that comment sent to me. And knew exactly what he was talking about. A League of Their Own, two sisters join the first female professional baseball league and struggle to help it succeed amid their own growing rivalry.
That's spam.
No, please read the spam. We have a new listener on our YouTube feed. Please read it out if you can.
Ingrid Elijah.
Hi, Ingrid.
Who I don't think actually listens to the podcast.
Oh, I'm sure you do, Ingrid. Considering your well-processed comment.
Which is the 100 emoji, followed by an absolute mash of characters.
That do make up a word.
Promotion. That second O isn't an O.
No.
And the first one has an accent over it. And the P isn't a regular P. It's one of the various Unicode characters.
Is there a 3 used as an E?
No.
Oh.
No. There is a black letter M.
Okay. Perhaps Ingrid? Was it Ingrid? Perhaps Ingrid is not a listener.
Yes.
But if you are, Ingrid, I do appreciate your thoughtful comment.
Which I am removing right now. Meanwhile, in people who actually care...
Hi, yes,
Dunkel says, perhaps the spam filter caught my 7th comment last week. It was BTL SHP. Colin better give credit for that guess.
I do, absolutely.
Or else this
In fact, I give you bonus because, yes, that pushes you onto the top of the leaderboard.
or else, or else this will be the last sentence he perceives in
Yeah. Sorry, Helen.
in title case.
I was aware of that that encouragement to reward Dunkel with recognition of said suggestion. I'm sorry.
My guest this week is MSRORD. I am adding fluff here so that I do not get marked spam. Robots ordain removal discreetly.
Meanwhile, Ingrid can get away with 100% emoji and...
Classic YouTube.
Okay, so, sorry, what did Dunkel suggest?
MSRORD.
Look, both Helen and Dunkel are unfortunately incorrect. For the mouse that roared, the 6-letter condensation of that... Condensation? Condensing of... was MOUSRR.
Right.
Mouse roar. Yeah.
It was a tough one.
It was.
Dunkel continues.
Hi, Dunkel.
In a third comment.
Yep.
The only place Eddie can be is in the space-time continuum. If he wasn't, the only place he could be is in our minds and never anywhere else. I find it amusing that if that were the case, you might consider Eddie to be in the mailbox when Thomas stuck his head in to look. And finally, in a fourth comment...
hang on, before you go to the fourth comment, I would like to point out that Thomas did not stick his head in the mailbox today. He stuck his head in the recycling bin.
No.
The rubbish bin?
I did not stick my head in either, but the rubbish bin had ended up in a shrub.
As had a milk bottle. Or did you take that from the kitchen?
I took that from the kitchen.
Wow.
And put it in the recycling before it was...
This high-intensity training that I've been giving you in the last couple of weeks has really paid off.
I was going out to bring in the rubbish bin because I suspected it might have ended up in a shrub. It had. And as I was going out, I took the plastic milk bottle that I believe I had put on the counter in the first place out to put in the recycling bin, which had not been emptied yet.
I'm proud of you, son.
And then later I brought in the recycling bin.
Okay.
I didn't have anything else going on at the time.
He did put his head in the recycling bin.
Not.
Okay, Dunkel's fourth and final
comment. Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers?
Nope, just Peter Sellers.
Oh.
No punctuation.
Right, good.
And that is the end of this untitled segment.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
For this, our 89th episode.
Let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
It is your turn.
Oh, is it?
To select the 90th film.
The
on
90th film. That makes me feel very nervous that I'm given that deep responsibility to choose the 90th film. So I'm going to hand the job over to my phone to make that selection instead.
It's someone else's problem now.
Yep. I'm going to use technological stuff.
Now, hold on. We were making recordings for another volume of the very best of Room Tone.
Sorry. This is room tone when there is gustiness of wind in the background.
We're not recording lounge room with man softly humming The Girl from Ipanema for another week or two yet. It's a very slow process.
That worked well, didn't it? Because I forgot to hit done. I hate that feature.
We do like and appreciate the My Movies app here.
Yes.
But
there are some interface issues, I think. Yes.
There are some design decisions that have been made that don't quite work.
I'm going to give the phone a shake. And I would like to give a shout out to Entu Osferatu for adding this film onto the list, and in fact causing me to order the film, because it's not on any of our streaming services, so that I could add it onto the list. Okay, this film is about some monsters who live underneath the charming streets of Cheesebridge.
Buzz, 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 buzz.
Yes.
Is this the last Laker film that we have not seen before? The Box Trolls.
It is indeed the Box Trolls. So, the Box Trolls are monsters who live underneath the charming streets of Cheesebridge, who crawl out of the sewers at night to steal the town's children and find cheeses. At least, that's the legend the townspeople have always believed. In truth, the Box Trolls are a community of lovable oddballs who are raising an abandoned human boy named Eggs as one of their own. When the Box Trolls are targeted by a villainous exterminator who is bent on eradicating them, Eggs must venture above ground to save his unique family, where he teams with an adventurous young girl to save not only the Box Trolls, but the soul of Cheesebridge. Does this plot line remind you in any way of The Borrowers?
At
least the movie,
yeah.
The Borrowers.
Yeah.
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 Huh. I only just noticed that, seeing as neither of us have actually seen this film. So I could be entirely wrong. I'm just basing that on a plot synopsis that historically, in our experience of reading plot synopsises, don't necessarily correspond with the film that we end up watching. But that's what we're watching next week.
It is.
The Box Trolls. We hope that you can join us when we do so. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
That's it. That's the end of the episode.
That is.
Mm-hmm.
Another long one.
Now hold on. There's a bunch of room tone to cut out of
That's right. All those hours of...
all those hours of room tone that
yeah.
I then spoke all over.
Yeah.
And you hummed The Girl from Ipanema over. He's doing it again. It was perfectly good room tone, just ruined. Terrible. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, that's going to have to stay in now.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's your own damn fault.
I'm stopping.
Flippity gibbets.
No flippity gibbets.
All the flippity gibbets.
No, I end up having to edit out all the flippity gibbets.
Every single flippity gibbet.
No. Stop the flippity gibbets.
What if only some of the flippity gibbets?
No. Absolutely not.
Can I have just one flippity gibbet?
No. You can have half a flippity gibbet.
Now, do I want the flibbity or the gibbet?
Ah. See, I cannot make that choice for you. All right.
I could go for the bitty jib. Or the flibbit.
Ah, flibbit. Hi, Helen.
Yes, it is from hell. Who says?
You sniffed again. Stop sniffing. Stuff a tissue up each nostril.
No.
I'll fix it in post.
Oh, it's very compelling.